Playlists and choice boards. Just like a music playlist, a playlist of learning activities can give students choice of when, how, and their pace of what they need to do to reach your academic objectives. Learning activities on a playlist could provide students direct instruction, practice, or assessment. Students may work on these activities individually or collaboratively. What's important to remember: these activities should be purposeful and guide students through the content. They may be done sequentially, or you may shuffle those activities for student choice. Instructions should be clear to the students so they can work on the activities without the teacher there to guide them. It's important to embed opportunities for checks of understanding to provide the student and teacher feedback on student progress. When you're ready to start, here's an example of a playlist. It's very simple to start and they can be very straightforward. This can be done by writing on a smartboard slide, a PowerPoint slide. You could even use a piece of printed paper or write on the whiteboard. If you haven't used playlists before, this would be a great way for you to start. And again, think about what you want your students to know and do, always going back to your standards and learning goals. It can also be a time for you to utilize technology to get tailored instruction for your students. Think about what activities are going to be your must-dos. You may have different must-do activities for the levels of learners in your classroom. What choices can you give? And remember, you want to have students doing grade level work to meet the standards, but the level of complexity may change depending on the needs of your students. It's also suggested to include activities that are offline along with online ones to create that balance for students. Here are a couple examples of playlists that show you how simply they can be formatted. Something else you might want to consider is to anticipate student questions or needs. You may want to include those things on your playlist or have the information posted in the room for the students to refer to. Here are a couple of middle school science playlists that are a little more complex. Playlists can last a few days or even a week, or they could even last throughout a whole unit. When beginning, start off simple. Then, as your students and you become more comfortable and your students have more practice being independent, you can add more to their playlist and turn the learning over to them. Here's an example of how a learning management system, such as Schoology, can be used to design learning activities in a playlist format that guide the learner through the material so the student can move at their own pace with a logical sequential progression. Folders and activities can be individually assigned to students. A variety of resources and activities can help students choose the mode in which they take in information, practice a skill, or show what they know, thus helping students develop agency over their own learning. Choice boards can be structured in many ways. Here's an example of an activity choice board that is interactive, and it has hyperlinks that takes the user to different websites or to watch a video. For the students, a well-designed playlist will provide students with guidance and a progression or sequence through the content that students can complete without the teacher's help. Playlists help develop student agency and accountability for their learning by allowing students to make choices, work independently or collaboratively with others, and take responsibility for their learning. Playlists can create opportunities to meet students where they are at different levels. When creating a playlist, remember the activities should always go back and reflect your standards, learning goals, and provide a level of rigor. This is an excellent way to provide scaffolds and supports and extensions for your diverse learners. It's a way to be proactive along the learning journey to help catch students up and fill in learning gaps by focusing on what content and goals is most important for the students to learn and understand. When you're building a playlist, go back to your think about it questions. What is it that you want your students to be able to know and do by the end? Use the resources suggested by your content supervisor that will provide a balance of activity choices for your students. Sequence them in a logical way. Think about it. Do they need to be done sequentially in order to build a progression in the learning of the content? Can they be done out of order? What activities do you want all students to do? What activities will be assigned to certain students based on their need? Playlists can also last as little as one class period. They could last a few days or even a week. Try to create a balance of online and offline activities that allow for student choice. Some activities may be individual or small group direct instruction. It could even be a way to support students while they're practicing. Also, an opportunity for students to collaborate. You should also think about the ways to incorporate student choice and checkpoints to serve as formative assessments throughout. This will provide you and your students with data and feedback to check for understanding and make instructional decisions. Playlists also create opportunities to build student engagement and motivation by allowing student choice and having control over the path and pace in which they're working. Some activities are must-dos, others may allow for choice, support, or extension.